From the Frontier Wrestling Alliance headquarters in London, this is FWA Radio with Dave Bradshaw.
It is the eve of New Frontiers, and you are listening to another episode of FWA Radio. It's hard to believe we've almost arrived, ladies and gentlemen. The Broxbourne Civic Hall this weekend is the place to be if you want to see some of the best wrestling action you've ever seen in this country and the rebirth of the FWA. Dave Bradshaw here in the studio with you as always, and today I'm going to be speaking to the Guv'nor, Martin Stone, who is just a couple of days away from his big main event, that qualifying match for the FWA World Heavyweight Championship Tournament. He'll be going up against a legend in British wrestling, Doug Williams, and we're going to find out how those preparations are going in just a few minutes' time. Now, as ever, we want your emails. We have had some good emails this week, so please do keep them coming. I'm going to read one or two in a few minutes' time if we have time. So the email address, as ever, radio@fwauk.com. If you have any questions for any of our guests, or if you have any views you want to tell us about the FWA or anything else going on in wrestling, the email address one more time, radio@fwauk.com. So that interview coming up with Martin Stone in just a couple of minutes' time. First of all, here's this week's news. Jane has that.
FWA New Frontiers is finally upon us. After months of preparation, the most groundbreaking British promotion of the past decade makes its return this Sunday at the Broxbourne Civic Hall with the start of a tournament that will crown the first ever FWA World Heavyweight Champion. Among the top names scheduled to appear on the show are Doug Williams, Martin Stone, Jody Fleisch, Pac, Johnny Storm, Leroy Kincaid, and many more. A limited number of tickets are still available, priced from just £10 each. Check out www.fwauk.com for more details. Last weekend, East Anglian promotion WAW started its summer season at Great Yarmouth's Atlantis Arena with the first of 6 consecutive Sunday shows. The opening show saw the first matches in the Atlantis Cup, a special 8-man tournament that will run throughout the summer. There were victories for Scott's Fusion, Sam Slam and Mad Dog Max. WWE's Night of Champions pay-per-view saw 8 titles being defended on Sunday night, with 3 title changes, including Jeff Hardy regaining the World Heavyweight Championship from CM Punk. Most insiders are assuming that this result means Hardy has agreed to stay with the company until at least SummerSlam next month. Meanwhile, Randy Orton retained the WWE title against Triple H and John Cena. Orton and Cena will face off in a one-on-one match at SummerSlam. WWE Raw this week saw guest host Shaquille O'Neal get into a physical confrontation with The Big Show during the main event, prompting speculation that the two men may be involved in a match with each other at next month's pay-per-view. SummerSlam is traditionally the second biggest show of the year for WWE and has a history of celebrity involvement. In other news from Raw, Chris Masters made an unannounced return to the company, fighting to a double countout with MVP. Dragon Gate USA made its much-anticipated debut in Philadelphia on Saturday night, with a show that was widely praised by the large crowd who attended. The main event saw Naruki Doi beat Shingo in a match for the Open the Dream Gate title, while the Young Bucks scored a big win against Seema and Susumu Yokosuka in a superb tag team encounter. Dragon Gate USA booker Gabe Sapolsky is also a member of the FWA management team. Finally, 2 wrestling legends renewed their long-running war of words this week. In a radio interview, Ric Flair described Bret the Hitman Hart as a pissant in the history of wrestling, and said he is offended when people try to compare the two men's careers. Hart and Flair appeared on separate Ring of Honor shows in the Toronto area this weekend, along with Lance Storm, who wrestled what may be the final matches of his career.
All right, thanks, Jane. Now, we're just a moment or two away now from that interview with the Guv'nor, Martin Stone, ahead of his main event match this Sunday at New Frontiers. Before we go into that, I want to tell you about our next show. We're going to be going to a 2-weekly cycle from now on, so our next show is in 2 weeks from now, and we're going to be talking to the managing director of the FWA, Tony Simpson, about how he thinks the first show went, his hopes for the company in the future, and much more besides. So if you have any questions at all you want to put to the Managing Director of FWA, Tony Simpson, the email address radio@fwauk.com. Now, we have had a couple of emails regarding last week's show, that incredible interview with Phil Flash Barker. Here's one from John in Southport saying, Flash's story actually gave me a lump in my throat. I can't wait to see him back in action, and I'm pleased to hear he'll be a part of New Frontiers. It wouldn't be the FWA without him. Lots of support, in fact, coming through for Phil Flash Barker on the email, so do keep them coming as ever. All right, now, let's move on to our interview for today. Now, at the time of the old FWA, Martin Stone was just breaking onto the scene. He was a tag team champion with Styx in the company's dying days, but it was in IPW UK where Martin finally rose into the main event, and in fact was the longest reigning champion in the company's history. He's now the 1PW heavyweight champion. He's certainly a favourite for the FWA World Heavyweight Championship tournament, and considered by many to be the leading star of his generation in British wrestling. He is the Guv'nor, Martin Stone. Martin, thanks for dropping by. I know you're very busy with preparation for the main event on Sunday.
Yep.
Of course, you've had a lot of big marquee matches in the past 5 years or so. So where does next Sunday, New Frontiers against Doug Williams, rank in terms of those matches that you've had?
Well, at this point in time in my career, it's probably one of the biggest, because obviously it's a high pressured spot. Being put in the main event for me just shows what people actually think of you. So you have to be able to deliver. Now, obviously, the main thing with this is that this is the rebirth of FWA. So with all the history that went on with the old FWA, now it's a case of it really is time to step up, in my opinion. So I'm really looking forward to it, and should be good.
I find it's kind of interesting to me that all those matches that you have had. I mean, you've won against Great Muta and Alex Shane last year. Yep. Whenever you have one of those matches, people tend to say this is a test of whether Martin Stone really is the real deal, whether he is the top dog in British wrestling. It must feel at times like, however many people you prove you're as good as, some people will never be satisfied. That's
just people's opinions and what they want to think. My job is to get in there and deliver the best match on the card if I can, or to try and steal the show if I can, or just basically to give as good a match as I can give. People will either like me or people won't like me. I don't really care, as long as the people in the crowd are happy and the promoter's happy. I'm fine.
So it's not like frustrating.
For me, it's not frustrating. I mean, I don't read the forum, so I don't know what people say about me. So I haven't really got a clue. So,
all right. Well, obviously the main event against Doug on Sunday is a qualifying match for the FWA World Heavyweight Championship tournament, which is starting up. And the first two names, it has to be said, on a lot of fans' lips when that tournament was announced, were yourself and Doug. So, do you see him as your main competition?
What in
terms of the being the first champion, winning that tournament?
What else can be said about Doug Williams? I mean, Christ, the guy is the spokesperson for British wrestling. I mean, he's what, a 15, 16-year vet. He's gone from the halls of Butlins to the rings of Japan, and now he's flying the flag for Britain in TNA. So I suppose he is my main competition in FWA for the title, because he had a really long run with the FWA title. I mean, some of the highlight matches that stick out is him and James Tyre. I think it was Uprising 2, and that was an absolutely amazing match. I was watching that back when I was a trainee, so to be in the main event of an FWA show with Doug is a massive deal. So I suppose so. Yeah, he probably is my main competition, really.